Adam Credo, writing in 2018, said, "Upon his recent resignation as the country's leader, former Lebanese Prime Minister Said Hariri fled the country and disclosed that Hezbollah now controls the entirety of Lebanon, including the Lebanese armed forces." Unquote. The affirmative team has read evidence from the U.S. ambassador to Lebanon and R1AC, congressional insiders such as Ted Cruz, Israel, the former Lebanese Prime Minister himself, and numerous third-party experts, and they all agree on one thing. Hezbollah has cemented full and complete control over the Lebanese government. And by providing money to the Lebanese armed forces, we are providing money to Hezbollah, and we must end aid immediately. In today's speech, I'd like to first go over the goal of the affirmative team before diving into the voting issues, which will echo our justifications. The goal is to stop supporting terrorism. And it is my partners and I firmly believe that it is never within U.S. strategic interests to fund terrorism. And we provided two specific advantages. First of all, funding terrorism undermines U.S. policy. We brought up how U.S. aid to Lebanon has actually undermined our approach to counterterrorism in the region. It has undermined U.S. sanctions against Iran and Hezbollah. And by ending aid, you make our sanctions policy and our counterterrorism policy more effective. And the second advantage is that providing money to terrorism puts innocent lives in danger. We have directly contributed to the growth of the most dangerous international terrorist organization in the world, a group that has killed more American citizens than any other group other than Al-Qaeda. This is another advantage of the affirmative team's policy. The first voting issue we have for you is that Lebanon is a terrorist safe haven. The United States Department of State officially labeled them a terrorist safe haven because rather than fighting against terrorism, they actively support terrorism. Now, we brought up several examples about Lebanon supporting terrorism with U.S. aid. And they claim that these cards of evidence never said U.S. aid, so I'd like to read them. The first one is of precision missiles. It says, quote, "While the U.S. is aiding the Lebanese army, the latter is collaborating with Hezbollah and enabling it to go ahead with its project for converting its missiles into precision missiles." The example about the tanks specifically says the Lebanese armed forces used U.S.-supplied artillery to provide cover for Hezbollah troops on the ground. These are two specific examples of U.S. weapons, U.S. aid being in service of Hezbollah. Now, furthermore, the negative team never responded to our argument about how the Lebanese armed forces also cooperates with ISIS, gives ISIS fighters safe passage through the country, and is cooperating with that terrorist group as well. Now, they brought up about how we'd be losing influence. But once again, they never responded to the card of evidence saying that Russia already took over Lebanon. They basically supplanted America, and we no longer have influence over the country. And this is a critical card of evidence that wasn't responded to by the negative team. The United States has no influence to lose. Furthermore, they said that recently they've been countering terrorism in Syria. I have a couple responses. First of all, the only reason that they did this was to protect Hezbollah. My second response is that they would have fought anyway. Because the reason they were fighting wasn't to protect U.S. interests, it was to protect Hezbollah's interests, they would have countered terrorism anyway. And my third response is that it was extremely minor efforts. They only arrested 8 terrorists that were already in custody of Hezbollah. This brings me to the second voting issue, and that is that Hezbollah has complete control over Lebanon. Now, interestingly enough, this was a contention that the negative team dropped. They dropped the idea that Hezbollah has complete control over the government. This is an idea that is backed up by the U.S. Department of State, U.S. generals who oversee U.S. aid to Lebanon. Now, they basically said that Lebanon has the best end-use monitoring perspective. However, this idea was debunked by congressional insiders and congressional reports. Furthermore, a key contention that was never responded to by the negative team is that U.S. aid has made the situation worse. The congressional insiders concluded that U.S. aid has empowered Hezbollah's grip over the country and its grip over the region. They never responded to our card of evidence about U.S. aid has allowed Hezbollah to grow 10 times stronger. The U.S. is directly contributing to the growth of this terrorist organization, and that is not okay. This brings me to the third and final voting issue, and that is that Lebanon is committed to the destruction of Israel. They have fought numerous wars against Israel in the past. In 2010, they shot and killed an Israeli Defense Forces commander. Israel realizes that U.S. aid has allowed Hezbollah to grow stronger, which is why they have called, as I mentioned in my last speech, they have called on the United States to end our aid to Lebanon time and time again. Lebanon has said that they will join the next war against Israel. We cannot be funding the enemy of our strongest ally in the region. If you want to protect U.S. strategic interests, if you want to effectively counter terrorism, if you want an advantage for U.S. policy, that comes by ending aid to Lebanon. I'd like to leave you with a quote from Emmanuel Odlin-Guini when he wrote in 2018 for Foreign Policy magazine, "Such a step would send a clear message to Lebanon. You can get U.S. aid or you can do Hezbollah's bidding, but you cannot do both at the same time and get away with it."